The burial was simple. No one cried much. It felt like everyone just wanted to forget. But that night, the phone rang. It was him, and in the background of the call, I heard thumping, muffled thumps, as if he was trying to get out. He was never an easy man to understand. Always quiet, cold, distant. It felt like he carried something inside him that no one was allowed to see. Not even his own family knew much about him. He never smiled, never hugged, but he was always there, like a heavy presence, as if the house grew darker when he walked in. When he died, there was no grief. The funeral was quick, almost rushed, as if everyone was in a hurry to get it over with. Few people showed up, and none of them cried. On the contrary, there was tension in the air, a silent relief, like everyone just wanted to forget he ever existed. But what really bothered me was the coffin. It was completely sealed. They said it was just a precaution, but no one explained what for. Not even my mother wanted to come close. No goodbye, not even one last look. It was as if they buried not just the body, but all of his secrets too. In that moment, something inside me screamed, but I ignored it. I accepted what they told me. I did what everyone else did. I let it go. Today, I would give anything to go back to that moment and open that coffin with my own hands. That night, I couldn't sleep. There was something strange in the air, like the silence in the house was heavy. It felt like something was wrong, not with the world outside, but with me. I closed my eyes, but couldn't rest until at 3:17 a.m. my phone vibrated. It was a strange number. No caller ID. My first instinct was to ignore it, but something, maybe instinct, maybe fear, made me answer. On the other end, silence. Not normal silence. It was like the sound was being sucked out, like when you're inside a sealed, airless space. And then it started, a faint breath, barely audible, as if the person was struggling to speak, or trapped. Seconds later, I heard 3 knocks, sharp, rhythmic, knock. Knock, knock. My heart raced. These weren't ordinary knocks. They were muffled, like someone pounding with their fists from inside. WOODI froze. The knocks came again, louder this time. And before I could say a word, the call dropped. I just stood there, staring at my phone screen, as if it could somehow explain what had just happened. But nothing, just the strange number saved in the call history, and the feeling that I had just heard something that shouldn't be possible. I stared at the phone for minutes, trying to find a logical explanation. Maybe it was a sick joke, someone who knew about the burial and wanted to mess with me. But deep down, I knew those knocks, that breathing, didn't feel like a prank. The next night, I left my phone charging beside the bed. I couldn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I heard the muffled sound of the knocks again, as if someone was down there, underground, waiting, knocking, calling. And then 3:17 a.m. again. The phone vibrated. Answered without thinking. This time, the voice came immediately, weak, trembling. "You left me here." I froze. My whole body went cold. "I'm still here." It was him. That voice, faint as it was. I'd recognize it anywhere. It was my father's voice. He sounded aware. He sounded scared, but also angry. I tried to speak, but my throat locked up. No words came out. All I could do was listen. They knew. They buried me alive. The call became more unstable. Strange sounds in the background, like something was scratching. Something hard, like fingernails trying to claw their way out of wood. Then the voice grew distant, and just before the call dropped completely, he whispered, "You shouldn't have left me." And the call ended. I sat there, shaking, knowing that somehow, impossibly, he was still trying to get out. The next day, I woke up feeling like I'd been punched in the soul. I didn't know if any of it had been real, or just a hallucination caused by grief, insomnia, or fear. But when I looked at my phone's call history, there it was, 3:17 a.m., unknown number, duration, 47 seconds. It wasn't my imagination. He really called me. Or someone pretending to be him did. But the voice, that voice was unmistakable. That's when I started searching for answers. I went to the funeral home where everything had been arranged. I spoke with an old man, weary-eyed, who seemed uncomfortable with my questions. "You're asking about the coffin," he said, like he had already expected me. "I want to know why no one saw the body, why the coffin was sealed, and why I'm now getting calls from someone who was supposedly buried yesterday." He fell silent for a few seconds, looked away, and then murmured, "We didn't prepare the body. It was brought to us, already taken care of. The family brought everything. We were only told to seal it. But I am family," I replied. He just stared at me, as if he knew something, but couldn't say or wouldn't. I left with more questions than answers. Even more uneasy, I went to the cemetery. The grave was already sealed. Fresh concrete. No sign that anyone could even attempt to open it. I asked the groundskeeper about the burial. He said everything had been rushed, done even before the scheduled time, and that someone insisted it be sealed with cement that very morning. Someone was trying to bury a secret with him. And the more I asked, the more I realized people knew something. But they were too afraid to speak. That same night, I was already exhausted, my mind overwhelmed with unanswered questions. But when the clock struck 3:17 a.m., my phone rang again. This time, I was prepared, but I wasn't ready for what came next. I answered with trembling hands, and on the other end, I heard a crying, fragile voice that cut through my soul. It wasn't my time. He was crying, or at least that's what the sound coming from that buried body seemed like. The voice sounded tired, as if it had already endured something indescribable. "You all knew what you were doing. You buried me alive." My heart almost stopped. The desperation in that voice was real, palpable. I asked who they were, but the answer was a heavy silence, followed by labored breathing and a disturbing sound, a scratching, like someone desperately trying to tear through the wood that trapped him. The call turned to static, and I could hear the wood being scratched from my side. It was an impossible sound to ignore, one that invaded my mind and made my chest ache. When the call ended, I just held the phone, not knowing if it was a cry for help, a warning, or a scream of agony. Since then, the calls continued, but never that intense. His voice appeared in whispers, fragments of incomplete sentences, mysteries that only fueled the fear inside me. I knew something terrible had happened, but the truth, that deep, dark truth, seemed to be buried with him. After those terrifying calls, I tried to find answers everywhere. I searched for documents, talked to distant relatives, even visited registries and hospitals. But whenever I got close to the truth, it just vanished, as if someone was erasing all the clues. At the hospital, they said, the cause of death was natural, nothing unusual, no signs of violence. But I knew it wasn't true. That desperate voice calling me in the middle of the night wasn't lying. In the family, no one wanted to talk. It was as if his name was a forbidden word, a secret everyone was too afraid to mention. The only thing I managed to find out was that before he died, he had discovered something very dangerous. But what? No one told me. Until one day, I found a box hidden at the back of an old closet. Inside, there were torn papers, old photos, and a cassette tape recorder. I decided to listen to what was recorded there. In the silence, his voice came through, clear, steady, different from that fragile voice on the calls. If you're listening to this, it means I didn't manage to escape. There are forces that want to silence me. If something happens to me, know that the truth is buried with me. That was the last message I ever got from him, and the feeling that something dark, some shadowy conspiracy, was buried with him has never left me. After everything that happened, I knew I had to do something. That desperate voice, that impossible call, it all felt like a cry for help from beyond. So, on a cold and silent night, I decided to return to the grave. I brought with me the tape recorder I found in the box, hoping to capture something, some answer, some sign. As I approached the tomb, I felt the air grow heavier, as if the silence itself was alive. I placed the recorder on the ground and began to speak, trying to communicate with him, trying to give voice to the story no one wanted to hear. Suddenly, the recorder picked up a barely audible whisper, a faint but clear voice. "Thank you for not forgetting." My heart raced. At that moment, I understood that even buried, he was still there, trying to communicate, seeking justice. But the final plea was a warning. Beware of those who seek the truth. They're still here, watching, and they won't stop until they silence me for good. I left there more afraid, but also certain of one thing. His story didn't end in that coffin, and I couldn't let it be forgotten.